While looking at my favorite website for free items, I saw an ad for a lawnmower. However, this one was special. The first thing I didn't care for was that it was a first come, first serve, which means it was not on the curb. That meant I had to make contact with the seller and wait for a response. I think it's just me, but I'd rather be racing across town to pick something up versus waiting by my computer for someone to contact me. And after waiting for 30 excruciating minutes, I made contact with them and also made arrangements so I can get this free mower. What's up everyone, and thank you for stopping by. Today's project is a snapper lawnmower, and the problem is that according to the seller, this mower has a bent crankshaft, and that's the reason why they were giving it away. Now more than likely, they were hoping this mower would be used for parts, but I intend to first confirm that it does have a bent crankshaft, and if it does, see if I can fix it well enough to be used again. But before I inspect this mower, I want to look over it for any obvious problems or issues and then give it a good cleaning. That way we don't get dirt in places where it's not supposed to be, like in the fuel tank or in the carb. While I'm cleaning this mower, I'm going to tell you about my experience getting this free mower and a few others that you might find interesting. So the reason why I don't like making contact with sellers is because I don't find it really necessary. Now this might sound antisocial of me, but meeting up with random strangers is not an interest of mine. What I like to do is find free items that are hopefully on the curb, pick them up, take them home, and try to figure out why they gave them away. The icing on the cake is seeing if I can fix it. Now the fuel tank is almost full, so I do believe they were using this mower when it had its little accident. I guess if all else fails, I'll end up with about 60 cents of free gasoline. Now surprisingly, the oil also looks pretty good. I don't know how old this mower is, but it certainly hasn't been used all that much. The most important part to look at though is under the mowing deck. So it looks like this mower has never been cleaned, which isn't a huge problem because it's not that old to rust out yet. But the bigger issue is that the blade is missing. Now what typically happens is that the mower will hit something and the blade will get damaged, and sometimes the blade adapter as well. If I can get this crank bent back into shape, I will still have to replace the blade adapter along with the blade, which will cut into the profit margin for this mower. Now, I'm going to drain all the fluids out of this engine because I intend on rolling this mower on both of its sides, so I don't want fuel and oil to leak out of it. Now, since we're draining the oil, we'll also inspect what came out of it. Now, it did have a little bit of color to it, and we could have probably used it for a little while longer, but I'm not going to reuse it, and that's because the cost of an oil change for a mower is only about $3, depending upon your sales tax. Now you don't need a pressure washer to clean the underside of a mowing deck. All you need is a garden hose. And what we need to do is get the dried grass clippings wet enough so they can be easily washed off. If you don't have access to a garden hose and you're just out in the field, just grab a stick and scrape what you can off of it. Now back to finding free stuff and hopefully trying to pick them up. To me, it's like an Easter egg hunt, and the eggs are all over the city, and if you're lucky enough, you'll get there before somebody else does. So I recently saw an ad for a free air compressor online, and it was about 5 blocks away from someone I knew. Now the ad was about 40 minutes old, so my chances of getting it were pretty slim, but I was very curious to know if I could fix it. I made contact with the person who was located near it, hoping they could get it for me, but unfortunately they weren't home, but instead about 3 miles away from there. So I told them about the situation, and they agreed to drive the 3 miles back to the location. I then waited for them to contact me, letting me know if they picked it up. Unfortunately, after 25 minutes, they contacted me telling me that it was gone. So in about 1 hour after posting, this small pancake compressor was picked up. Now this goes to show you, you have to be pretty quick when picking up free items on the curb. So I thanked them for doing this favor for me, but I never asked them why it took them so long to get to the location. The problem was that I left it in somebody else's hands and I didn't get the results I wanted. The lesson from this one was that if you want something done, do it yourself, and if it doesn't go your way, then you have only yourself to blame and no one else. Now after several minutes of spraying water on the dried grass clippings, you can see that a lot of it has loosened up and has come off the mowing deck. There are also a few stubborn areas, and to help it along, I'm going to use this branch. Now you can use whatever you want, but I wanted something with a long reach so I don't have to lean down near the mowing deck. Now once I've gotten most of the grass off, there's still a few smaller areas, and to remove them, I'm going to use this brush and some cleaner. So after making contact with this seller, it turned out they were almost 25 miles in a neighboring town. And this is one of the worst situations because you really can't expect them to meet up with you because they're not getting anything out of it. I mean, they're giving away a free mower. I told them where I was located, and as a compromise, I asked them if we could meet somewhere in the middle. Now luckily, it turns out they were actually coming into town and to a clothing store which was only 2 miles from my house, which worked out in my favor. They told me what time they planned on getting there, which was about 2 hours from that time, and that's when the waiting game started. I waited anxiously until it was time to leave, and then I left about 15 minutes early just in case they came early as well. Now, after scrubbing the deck and hosing it down, it looks to be in very good condition. The places where the paint is missing is natural. This sort of wear is caused by grass clippings and anything else the mowing deck might pick up, like dirt and twigs that will eventually hit the deck. The bare metal is then susceptible to rusting due to clumps of grass sticking to this area. That's why it's so important to clean under the mowing deck. Now, if you want to repaint this area, that's completely up to you. Now, I'm also going to remove the plastic guard over the blade adapter and the drive belt to see if I need to remove any clumps of grass. And to my surprise, there's hardly anything here. I'll give it a light cleaning and then put the cover back on. From the condition of this area, I would have to say that this mower has very little run time, so it's a real shame that it broke so soon. I don't know about you, but if I hit something with my mower, I would do everything I could to keep from doing it again. For example, if I hit a large rock that was in the ground, I would either cover the rock up with more dirt so it wouldn't be an obstacle anymore, or I would try to remove it. If it was a tree stump, I would try to do the same thing as well. The last time a mower came to me with a bent crankshaft, it had apparently hit some studs that held a basketball post to a concrete slab. Now, if it was me, I would have either cut the studs down so they wouldn't be able to hit the blade again, or find a way not to get so close to them in the first place. In this situation, the person that was mowing didn't like using the string trimmer, so they would mow as close to things as possible to avoid having to do a lot of trimmer work. Hopefully, they learned their lesson about getting too close to things with their mower. Now, I haven't decided exactly how I'm going to repair this bent crankshaft, but I doubt I'm going to buy the expensive engine mounting system that's meant to repair them. The reason is I don't get a lot of engines with this sort of problem, and for the price, I don't think it's worth it. More than likely, I'm just going to use my persuader to straighten the crankshaft. So am I worried that the crankshaft will be weakened from the repair? And the answer is, of course. But I intend on doing extensive testing to make sure that if it's going to break, it's going to happen when I'm using it and not somebody else. As of right now, I only have one other mower that definitely has a bent crankshaft. I don't think I've shown it on either of my channels yet, and it's because it vibrates so badly it's hard to use. It's also the same setup on this mower as well. A small mowing deck, a Briggs engine with a plastic carb, and if I recall, I think it's also got self-propel, but I'd have to get it out of storage to find out. I don't know about you, but I don't like the look of these hubcaps on these wheels. I think they look better without them. The wheel is black and it's smoother with a nice design, which to me makes it easier to clean, versus the right angles and the tight corners with the hubcap. I'm going to use this old brush to get into the tighter places first, then I'll finish it off using the round brush on the drill. The transformation is quite dramatic, and the main reason is because the wheels clean up very nicely. I'll do the same procedure to the front wheels as I did to the rear ones, and the same sort of transformation will happen here as well. Now, when I see a mower for sale online, 9 times out of 10, the mower will be dirty, covered in grass clippings, dirt, and even some oil. I don't know what you think of when you see these sort of ads, but for me, I'd like to see them clean. They don't have to be a mirror finish, just clean. Now, I don't think a clean mower is going to run any better, but for me, it's the perception that I'm not buying a pile of junk off of somebody else. I recently had a very bad experience with another free item. This time, it was with a shop vac. And according to the ad, it would turn on but had no vacuum. The problem was yet again, it was a first come, first served scenario. So I saw the ad when it was only minutes old, and there was a very good chance that I'd be the one to get it. But after contacting them and waiting for a while, I didn't get any messages back, so I assumed I missed it. That meant I continued on with what I was doing that evening, having dinner and tidying up a few loose ends. Since I thought it was already given away, I didn't get back on the computer for a few hours, and guess what I saw when I got back online? Their response. Now, they responded over an hour after I asked them about it, and there was a huge problem. They said it was still available, and they left it on the curb for me, and then gave me their address. Their location didn't match what was shown on the ad, but instead it was twice as far away. By the time I saw the response, the item had been on the curb for over 2 hours, but for some reason I still responded and said I was on my way. 30 minutes later, I pulled up to the location to find nothing. Now, more than likely, somebody driving through the neighborhood saw it and picked it up. This is the reason why I don't do first come, first serve, and I have to contact them. It typically turns into a game of message tag, which in my situation did not work in my favor. Now, even though this might be a bit premature, since I've got the mower on the table, I'm going to remove the front wheels so I can lubricate them. Now, this is something most people overlook, but it only takes a few minutes with a can of lithium grease. The other benefit is, if the self-propel system is easier to spin over, more of the power is left for the engine to use when cutting the grass. It's not that obvious that the wheels are easier to turn on camera, but in person, it's a lot easier to spin now. I'm also going to do the same procedure for the rear wheels, but since these freewheel, it'll be a lot easier to see how much better they spin once lubricated. I would only do this once a year when changing the oil, but you're obviously free to do it as many times as it's needed. Now back to the story on this mower, there's not much more to say about it aside from meeting up with them at the clothing store and waiting for them to pull up in the truck they described in their text. Once they arrived, I parked beside them, introduced myself, and received the mower, but I have had people show up late before, which for some reason bothers me, but if you want something for free, you can't expect them to be punctual. I'm not exactly sure how I'll approach fixing this machine, but I can safely say that it cleaned up very well, and by how little wear and tear there is on this mower, especially the tires, this mower is in very good condition. If I don't fix it, it was worth the effort for free parts like the wheels, the mowing deck, and parts off the engine. I think the best thing to do would be to take the engine off the deck so I can try to straighten the shaft, and the reason is, if I can't fix it, at least the mowing deck will be minus the engine and will be several steps closer to being put back into service. I hope you enjoyed watching me clean this mower and share my experiences when it comes to picking up free items. I hope I shed some light on some of the issues and concerns I run across when doing this type of stuff. I would also ask you to be as safe as you can because you can never be too safe out there. Thank you for watching. I really do appreciate your time here. Please feel free to ask me any questions, and I hope to see you in the next video.